Hey, sports fans, Larry here. It is your favorite daily podcast, or almost daily. It's Coffee with Larry. It is Tuesday, February 11th, 2:30 in the afternoon Central Time in the USA. Yes, I am in this country. I am having a combo Dunkin' Donuts Americano with a little bit of cream and some coffee from my percolator with a little bit of Chobani. So, hey. Oh, and as the caffeine courses through my central nervous system, I say in the immortal words of Joe Piani, the former director of athletics at Notre Dame. Hey, campers. Shane O'Flaherty reminded me that that's where I got it from, And I remember Joe saying it for the first time back in 1980 when I was at the National Catholic. So, hope everybody's doing well. I'm in the Laren Hall, the global headquarters for RunBlogRun. I have been home again since Sunday night. I was at the Ras El Khaimah half marathon from when was it? January 27th to the 2nd. And then I flew all night and went to Boston for the New Balance Indoor. I stayed there till Tuesday, came home for 2 days to be with my lovely Kathy, and so she remembered what I looked like. And then on Thursday night, I jumped on a plane and flew to Newark and to cover the Milrose games. Did some interviews on Friday, covered the meet from the loneliness of the and I'm joking about the loneliness of the cafe in lovely my hat looks really weird and I'm trying to figure out what I did wrong. Okay, the cafe on the floor of the track, the Nike Armory Cafe, and where I got to see everybody, and watch the meet. And it was the 117th Milrose Games. As Ray Flynn, meet director, said, may have been the best. He goes, where do I go from here? And so we're going to go through some things. I want to share with you a little bit about my last couple of weeks and some observations. And I'm going to try to get this sun thing figured out. So let's see if we can do it this way so it doesn't wig you guys out. Is that better? Okay, there we go. God, I look even more charming than normal. Charles Alexander's going, Larry, Larry, Larry. And Jeff Shaver's going, Larry, put up the Toto pictures. So I'm going to do that as well. Yes, Jeff Shaver sent me pictures from the 1990s of him going to the great Toto meet. The guys who make toilets in Japan, they used to put on a big track meet. And he has a picture of him on the biggest Toto toilet that ever existed. And I remember being in Osaka in 07. And in my room, the Toto toilet took 70% of the room. It had a shower too. And it spoke to me, totally wigged me out. But they also had a little TV, and I was watching Japanese heavy metal at night. They were all dressed up in kabuki outfits. And I also got to see some bootleg Rod Stewart from back then too. So, but I'm digressing. Yes, Steve Itonas, that's a digression. Okay, so yes, I'm in Fort Atkinson. It's 13 degrees. I'm going to get my walk in after a little nap. I hope everybody's doing fantastic. The sun is out for me. If the sun's out, it's a groovy day. So I'm having a little bit of coffee. And I got to interview Ollie Hoare, and I'm trying to get Ollie to come back on and talk about the podcast he does with Gordy Beamish and with Morgan McDonald, a fine Badger graduate, NCAA champion, and so I'm going to try to get all three of them on to chat with them. So I'm going to reach out. But Ollie is a delightful human being, and I got to meet Cam Myers while I was at the event as well. So first I was at Ras El Khaimah, that's put on by our friends at Pace Events. That's Peter Connerton and Alan Owens. They do a great job. It's insanity because they just did a marathon January 12th, and 3 weeks later they're doing an incredible half marathon. And this was their second year with the half marathon, and the numbers went from just over 5,000 to 10,000 plus. So the growth is great. The folks at Tourism Ras El Khaimah think they're totally bitching and want to see bigger numbers. So we'll have to, we'll help them with that. I think the guys are still sleeping because it just was, it was brutal. The races were fantastic, and both on the men and women's side. It was cold and windy. Ejagahu Taye won the women's race. She was hell bent on the world record, but she went out so dang fast that she and the rest of the field collapsed. She ended up doing what was it, a 105.52? And on the guys' side, they had no pacemakers, so it was pure racing. And Alex Matata won. Alex is a surprise. He's sponsored by Li Ning, and he took on some big names. And he ran what, 59.20 PB by 27 seconds. But the thing is, that's his fifth time under 60 minutes and a half marathon, and he was on anybody's list. The conditions were good. They were a little chilly. I don't think it got over 60, which is cool for that time of the year. But we were staying at the Doubletree by Hilton Marjan Island, which was spectacular. The food was great. The service was incredible. The team in the kitchen were always fun, and I was one of the few Americans there, so they're just kind of, and I have the Santa beard, so they were being nice to me. But I always got my double espresso and big bottle of sparkling water, so I was happy. Hey, Jeff Benjamin, top of the afternoon. So Jeff sent a couple notes off today. Jerome Drayton, the winner of the 1977 Boston Marathon, three-time winner in Fukuoka, passed away yesterday. He was 80 years old. And Jeff was sent a note by Bill Rogers. And Bill, we posted it. Bill spoke very touchingly about running against Jerome and reminding everybody that he was one of Canada's greats, and that Bill was thinking of Jerome and his family. Jerome, to me, was the punk rocker of marathons. He went to Detroit at the Free Press Marathon when no one was there and cranked out a 2:10 marathon by himself. He beat Shorter at Springbank, which was a series of road races in Canada. It was a 11.6 miles flat, and they ran the last lap in 60 seconds. It was Shorter's nightmare that it wasn't Waldemar Sapinski, it was Jerome Drayton at Montreal. He thought that the guy would be with him, and Jerome did quite well that day. Jerome also dropped out of a few big races with a mile to go because he was unhappy of where he was. But in 1977, he took on Bill, and it was very hot, and he won that day. And his interview afterwards was classic Jerome Drayton. So Jerome Drayton, RIP, we think a lot of you. He was one of the coolest dudes of my era. He and the late Brian Maxwell were the two Canadian guys that I knew and respected in the marathon. Brian was a coach at Cal and the founder of Power Bar with his lovely wife, Jenny Maxwell. And Jenny now does Jam Bar, and they were a past advertiser with us. But Jerome Drayton, a little drink of coffee. I'm sure he had a few beers once in a while. So we talked about the RIK half. I covered the Dubai Marathon in January remotely, but I went out to RIK. My most arduous day of the year is about 11 at night. I left Ras Al Khaimah, 80 clicks down to the Dubai airport. Had a wonderful taxi driver from Afghanistan whose two girls are still stuck over there, and he's trying to get them out. But as we were driving through the desert, he was pointing out how the locals love to camp in the desert on the holidays, but also how every car has like 5 cameras, and there's all these cameras on the highways, and you can go 120 to 140 kilometers, so about 73 to 80 miles an hour. You get over 140 kilos, you're getting a ticket for $600 US, baby. You drive erratically, $400. So they don't play around. But I love REK and I love Dubai. Quality of life. It's a great place for vacations. Most of the people I met in RAK were from Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, Russia, Czechia, the Czech Republic, Germany, France, Italy, UK a bit. The food was spectacular. The beach was wonderful, and the pools were great. And Americans can get over there for about $1,000 round trip if you want to do Air Emirates. And now I did it for about 1,400 on United, but that's because I went Chicago, Boston, Zurich to Dubai. I stopped in Zurich because my dear son Adam found me the coolest business lounge in the world. It's a Swiss Air one. It has 120 plus types of whiskey. I don't drink whiskey anymore, but I looked at the bar in honor of my son Adam, and had a moment of silence over 2 bottles of Suntory. But just sharing. And the Zurich airport is wonderful. Um, Getting into it was 16-hour flight to Newark. Got into Newark. Security sucked in the C area, so I missed my flight to Boston by 1 minute. They got me on the next one, so I got in there about 2:15 and went directly to the track. And there was a problem with my media credential. I'd actually filled it out for a change, which I normally don't do. I just show up, which really, annoys the living shit out of people. So I'm trying to be better. So, but thank you for Global Athletics for getting it straightened out. And then I stayed at the lovely Lenox Hotel. Um, the New Balance meet was a great. It's the way I start my indoor season. I normally go to that meet first, and Mark Wetmore and Matt McCarran and the incredible team at Global Athletics and Marketing do a great job on the meet. It's at the track at New Balance. Um, Josh Huey, total revelation, man. 352 mile this year at 214 48,000, 333.66 in the 1500. But in second behind him was Grant Fisher, who dropped down from the 5 and ran a 333.99. That was some serious foot action. Hobbs Kessler ran a 735 in the 3000. Heather McLean won the mile quite impressively. And the person who finished the meet was the charmer himself, Noah Lyles, 2024 Olympic champion at the 100, the 2021 Olympic champion at the 100, Marcel Jacobs, the Italian stallion, is, what is it saying now? Oh, I'm getting a note from my lovely. I'm going to have to go up and, what is she? Sorry. See what's going on. Oh, the protectors. Oh, the kitties are up there protecting her. But she, who was that? Marcel Jacobs. He ran a 663, 669 to 663. Trevon Bromell ran pretty well too for his opener. Noah Lyles won in the only race that I understand he's doing indoor season. I was wondering if he'd get tempted to go to Nanjing, but I don't think he's going to. I think Lance wants him to stay focused on the road to Tokyo. So we will see. But I stayed and I wrote in lovely Boston for 2 days. Went to Kazi, a new Greek place, where a place called Jerusalem was, that used to be a meze bar. And I went and sat at the front, and they made me fresh tzatziki, kind of like they make salsa at Mexican places. And then I had a little stuff with some wild boar and some pork and some cheese from Greece and some wonderful bread. And it was a lovely evening, and got my walk in, and then went back and wrote till 5 in the morning. But I love the rooms in the Lenox. If you get a chance to be there, and the general manager, Denny, is the best in the world. He has a staff that he's handpicked, all lovely human beings. um, and they go out of their way to be cool with you. And I also got to see Joe Rubio and David Frank, two of my favorite people on the planet. They are just they were there as guests of our friends at New Balance, Joe Preston and Tom Carleo. And again, kudos to our friends at New Balance who put on a spectacular meet in the house that Jim Davis built. The track at New Balance, um, it's at least in the top three, and probably next year I'll tell you it's the best in the world. But give me another year. And but again, great job, New Balance. It's one of two World Athletics Indoor Tour Gold meetings, and spectacular. I came home for 2 days because I needed a little break. I needed to see my lovely girlfriend and our granddaughter. I'm the pretend grandfather, as you know, Fiona, and hung out and with the cats, Smokey and Bandit. And then on Friday, about 2 hours before the flight, I finally was it Thursday, 2 hours before the flight, I finally decided that I needed to go. And yes, Kathy drove me to the airport. I got in 2 minutes late, and even though the flight was 45 minutes delayed, they wouldn't let me take a bag, so we had to drive to Chicago. Got in about 1 a.m. Staying at where was that? A Hilton in Newark, Hampton Inn in Newark. Quite nice. And the next morning, got up and did some interviews, and I got to talk to Trayvon Rommel, Leah Hobbs, Nikki Hiltz. We got to chat. I'll do an interview with them soon, excuse me, and then trying to do an interview with Nikki. And I asked Howie, their agent, about that, so we'll see how that goes. So I did Trayvon, I did Aaliyah Hobbs, and I'm trying to think who else I got that day. Got to talk to a couple other athletes, talked to Grant Fisher's coach. Um, Also got to talk to, um, oh God, Tom Nohilly, the coach at Adidas Atlanta Track Club. Tommy, I've known for ages, and his aunt, who was a nun, used to write me fan letters when Tommy was doing well in the 1990s, and I always responded to nuns because, I'm a Catholic boy. I learned through pain and through joy. Now I'm a Catholic man. I go to church whenever I can. That's a Jim Carroll quote from Catholic Boy, my favorite album. Just deal with it. Um, so the I went back to the meet on Saturday. We knew there was going to be a storm, so I just left stuff in my room. I got there about noon, and I had a ticket I bought for $143. I hadn't had the presence of mind to apply for a media credential. I have had a presence of mind to get the credential for the U.S. indoors, and I've already got a hotel and I've got my airfare. So I will actually be there, and then we're planning on going to the European indoors as well. But I got to tell you, Milrose Games was fantastic. Um, Starting at 11 and going through 6, and the staff is wonderful. Um, the place was packed to the gills. Um, when I got there, the only tickets that were available were for $350. Um, Mr. Bosserdette, Mark Bosserdette, longtime friend, came and spent about 4 hours with me, and we held court in the Nike Armory Cafe, saw everybody. And then Jeff Benjamin, our senior writer of all things running, and the mayor of Staten Island Running was there. And Jeff is, I talk to Jeff every day. If I don't, it's not a regular day. Jeff's a former history teacher, and he knows the sport, and he loves the sport. And what broke my heart was that for the third year in a row, he's gotten jerked around with his media credential. We got it on time, but they put him on a side where he couldn't see anything, he couldn't talk to anybody, and they know, as 3 or 4 of the brand sponsors said, we do more interviews and put more social media up than anybody there. And I challenge everybody to find someone who does more. Um, we did over 500,000 views off Twitter, and Facebook is still going crazy. And I've got more stories to do today, but it would be really nice if, and I understand my situation, but there's no reason for Jeff being jerked around, and he is every meet now. And it's only happened the last 3 years, and I know who, pretty sure who's behind it, and they can kiss my rear side, but it's tacky. I've never stopped a fellow media person from being at an event, even if the events were sponsored by us. But we've had our competitors do that, and that's just it's tacky. It's childlike. So I'm not gonna go any farther than that. So you heard me vent, but the meet was spectacular. Um, the new Mondo track. There had been 5 layers of track, and last August they went and tore everything down and put a new layer in. And the athletes would tell me how fast the track seemed and felt. The 60-meter straight race, the 60-meter hurdles were rocking, fast times, glorious fields. The 800 Josh Huey, American record 143.90, and our friend Bryce Hoppel did not let him get away. He fought to the very end, and Bryce got his indoor PB. But I thought it was spectacular. Josh continues to astound. Again, a 352 mile, a 214.48 American record at the 1,000, a 333.66 for the 1,500, and now a 143.90 American record. Josh did tell me he wants to run in Nanjing. We will see him at the U.S. Champs. We look forward to seeing him run in Nanjing. I think the guy can medal in the 800 and the 1,500. It's just he's that talented. It's going to be interesting. Bryce is not running in Nanjing. The next event that was mind-blowing was the men's 3,000 meters. You had Cole Hawker, Olympic gold medalist, 1,500 meters. You had Grant Fisher, Olympic bronze medalist, 5,000 and 10,000. I think the only American that's ever done that. Grant is being coached by his high school coach, who flies from Arizona to Park City 2 days a week to coach Grant, and I believe Nikki Hiltz as well. But I've got to check on that. But I met Grant's coach, and Grant is meticulous. Grant is a planner, and you could see it in the way he ran the race. They had pacemakers through 2K, and then Grant went to the lead with 6 laps to go, and Cole was right there, and Kai Williams was behind him. But it was really the Grant and Cole show. And Cole surprised the living heck out of Grant, taking the lead with 3 laps to go. Cole is a warrior. There is no other way to describe that young man. I love watching him race. What he did in Paris was epic. Josh Kerr did everything he could to win that race. And if Cole hadn't been there, he would have won. But the U.S. went gold and bronze there. Josh got the silver. Josh ended up getting sick and was unable to run the mile. We'll talk about that in a bit. But in this 3,000, Cole kept the lead till 100 meters to go. And Grant somehow found another gear and went by. The crowd erupted. 5,000 fans, standing room only, lost their minds. It wasn't just an American record, kids. It was a world record. 7:22.91. Did you hear that? 7:22 friggin' 91. new world and American record, and of course, meet record. More than Nike, the sponsor, could have imagined. One of my Nike contacts said they knew Grant was going to run fast, they knew Cole was going to run fast, but they never suspected that. They broke Lemaitre Girma's world record. Cole Hawker did too. He ran 7:23. A very touching interview with Cole afterwards, and I'm writing a piece on it. Um, Cole was having a rough time. He does not like to lose. That's what you want. Two incredible warriors that we got to watch. The best that American distance running can produce. These guys were amazing. And I was honored to watch them and very touched by the races. And I'm hoping to interview both. But I'm doing some pieces about them, so they'll tell me how full of shit I am when we get to talk, right? So that 3,000 just was amazing. And then in the women's 3,000, Jess Hull, who had just gotten over a cold, she's the Olympic silver medalist in the 1,500. She was there, Whitney Morgan and Josette Andrews. And Josette took the lead with, I think, 3 laps to go. And Whitney waited until the last 200 and dropped a 28.9 bomb and took the win. Oh, Grant Foster ran 27.5 in that last 200. But Whitney Morgan, 8:28:03, and Josette 8:29, and our friend Jess Hull 8:30, suffering still from a cold, but she's got the qualifier for Nanjing now. We did a nice interview with her. You can see that as well. The women's 3,000 was incredible. Caitlin Tui dropped out. Was having a rough race. I wonder if she's sick. Caitlin normally doesn't drop out. She's a tough athlete. She just ran a 4:25 mile, and she could have just been putting too much pressure on herself. But we really enjoy Caitlin. She's a lovely athlete, lovely young woman, and does great interviews. But boy, she dealt with pressure over her life. Her first time competing there was when she was 12, I believe. So that's kind of an interesting one. Now we get to the miles. The women's mile was a very tactical race. And Georgia Bell, the Olympic bronze medalist, came from the outside and went by Heather McLean. And then Nikki Hiltz made a move too. And all three were nearly together. Georgia Bell takes first. Heather was second. Nikki was third. 4:23, spectacular mile. I talked to Georgia afterwards. She said it was a fun race because they didn't go out insanely fast. But, I had a little differ with our dear friend Kara Goucher on the TV broadcast. She said that Georgia showed her lack of indoor experience. I thought Georgia did everything right. Sometimes you just got to, and Georgia's coached by Jenny Meadows, who 800 medalist, who knows how to race. And among that group is also Keely Hodgkinson. And remember, the Keely Classic is on February 15th. The leave-in meet is on the 13th, which is going to be a big deal too. But we will talk about that. The final event of the Millrose Games, the 117th Millrose Games, was the Wanamaker Millrose Mile for men. The Abe Alvarado took them through 57, and I think was it 153, and right there is Yared Nagus, and also Hobbs Kessler, and Cam Myers, and Azabine Habis, and Neil Gorley. Just a coterie of incredible milers. And watching where Bernard Legat, Eamon Coughlin, Ray Flynn, Marcus O'Sullivan, Eamon, and Bernard had just received the Armory President's Award for outstanding support of the sport. And I got to have a moment with Bernard. He always warms the cockles of my heart. We used to travel a lot. We would grab taxis together to jump on a plane. He was going to some meet in Europe. I was going to a different one, and we would catch up. But Bernard is spectacular. Marcus, wonderful coach. I got to watch Marcus in some of his big races. And Eamon has always been good to me, and I got to do an interview with Eamon afterwards, and that was wonderful. I still remember James O'Brien's piece on Eamon after his first 10,000 back in 1983 at Penn Relays, where he won that one. Huh? Pretty cool. 28:03? I'll have to go back and check. Um, but in the mile, this was Yared Nagus's party, and cry if you want to. He wasn't going to let anybody get in his way. Josh Kerr, who I thought could give him a battle, got sick. And I knew a little bit of something was going on because when I talked to Danny Mackey the day before, I asked Danny how things were going. He says, I'm a little nervous about Josh, but it wasn't clicking. I have wonderful conversations with Danny, but I try to keep respect. I let coaches alone when they're involved in their coaching. I believe the coach-athlete relationship is sacred, and I stay the living shit out of the way when they're doing their magic, and it is magic in all parts of that word, In that, so get it, and we'll talk about that sometime. But I got to tell you, the race was spectacular. Yared Nuguse ran like a man possessed. He wanted that third win. Hobbs Kessler was not going to let him go. Hobbs is one of my favorites. He's part of the Very Nice Track Club. He was brought up in the culture by Nick Willis and Hobbs' dad, who coaches him, and the great and powerful Oz, Ron Warhurst, one of my spiritual leaders, Very Nice Track Club founder, would you call Ronnie? That's the least we can call him. He is a developer of milers. One of the pictures I have that I keep in my heart is Schumacher and Warhurst. Both good guys. But Yared won 346.63. Hobbs ran 346.90. Cam Myers was third in a new Australian record, the 18-year-old. It was really funny. Afterwards, I interviewed Ollie Hoare, and Ollie goes to Cam, hey, can you leave a couple of the records still there, man? Give me some time when I'm getting in shape. And Ollie told me, he said, hey, man, I'm not in 722 shape, and I'm sure not in 346 shape, but I'm getting there. I just got to get healthy. And Dathan, the coach of Yared afterwards, was just beaming. He was so happy with his athletes' performances. And he told me that Joe Klecker is focusing on the roads, and that, but what Dathan has done as a coach, he is in his perfect alpha state. He's meant to be a coach, and he was a fine athlete. And I've known Dathan since he was 15 years old, a wee lad, and he is, he's happy, and I'm happy for him. But what a great meet, and Yared and Hobbs and Cam and everybody in that mile honored the sport with their great performances. And the house that Norb Sander built, the Nike Track and Field Armory, with the new track, with new signage. The folks at Nike should be very happy. Mr. Knight should be happy. This is the second house that he's rebuilt, but Norb Sander saved it. And Norb was smiling, sitting in the stands, I think, with Steve Prefontaine and his, I think Steve's in a hoodie that says Go Ducks on it. He's got a veggie burrito in one hand and a Coors in a paper bag in the other hand. And Norb is drinking a glass of French wine and perhaps a baguette, that he picked up at, a little French bakery, because he's such a Francophile with his Fordham stuff on. But I think they were happy too. It was a spectacular meet, and one of the best I've ever seen. The 3,000 is in my top 10 races of all times, and yeah, we're not even getting there right now. That mile was close, man, but that 3,000 was spectacular. and the repercussions from that 3,000, Grant Fisher and Cole Hawker, and what Cole will do in the future is going to be great. Some nice news from our friends at the Grand Slam track as well, that they have a TV deal now with CW, NBC Sports, and Peacock. Um, I think it's a good first year for them. I'm more concerned about the facilities. I would prefer they've had smaller facilities so they could fill it up, keep expectations low, but that's not how Michael does his thing. So Michael will do his thing. Uh, I would love to be in Kingston. Well, I'll just have to see. It's a financial situation, right? Um, what's coming up? U.S. Indoors on the 22nd to 23rd of February. The Europeans on the 6th through 9th in Apeldoorn. I'm going to try to be at both of those. More than likely, I'm not in Nanjing. I just have to be careful with my health. I've had COVID twice, heart surgery because of COVID twice. I do not want it a third time. So, trying to be careful. So, Coffee with Larry is sponsored by our friends at Omius, the cooling technology people, OMIUS.io. They make hats, visors, and headbands with these cooling pods that you put a little water on and it keeps you cool. And Safan Hassan and Bashar Abdi used them in Paris during those hot races. We're also sponsored, the Coffee with Larry is also sponsored by our friends at the Dubai Marathon and RAK Half Marathon. That's Pace Events. That's Peter Connerton and Alan Owens, and they're great and they're fun and good people. We're also supported by our friends at Global Athletics. That is Mark Wetmore and his wonderful team, because they support us at the one, the only New Balance indoor, the way I open my season. And the Lenox Hotel was spectacular. And then I've just been at the Millrose Games. Thanks to our friends at Nike for putting on the meet. And we our sponsorship for Run Blog Run and everything comes from our friends at Brooks. Brooks has been with us since 1990. They are my longest sponsor. And when I got sick in 18, Brooks stayed there, and no one else did. And I'm most appreciative of that. Um, Started with Helen Rocky and Tom Carmody back in 1990. Then it was our friend Dave Larson, Vice President of Advertising and Light Hauling, and Jesse Williams, Manager of Advertising, and this dude named Dan Sheridan, who at the time was rising through the ranks. He's now the CEO. He replaced Jim Weber, who was there for 20 years. And Jim and I would have calls 2 or 3 times a year, and Jim would always go, Larry, what do you do all day? I said, I'm on the phone, doing podcasts. What do you do with all that information? I said, I share it with my sponsors. And we always had fun conversations, and I have them with Dan. And thank you to Garrett Heath and Amanda Neal in advertising at Brooks. They're wonderful people. And the team that does footwear there, I've been running in and walking in Brooks shoes since 1975. I had Villanova pin spikes that I think were Marty LaCouri co-designed, and I ran 9 times under 5 minutes in those, which was a big thing for me because I was running 6:30 the year before. We'll tell that story sometime. Um, and then I've run in the Brooks Chariot. Now I'm in the Brooks Glycerin Max and the Brooks Cascadia 16 with Gore-Tex. Love them both. I got to tell you, these Max shoes really changed my life. I wore them in my 3 weeks of travel, and they were spectacular. We'll tell you more about those. But again, this is Coffee with Larry for February 11th, Tuesday, February 11th. Run, jump, and throw today. Tell someone you love them. Do a random act of kindness. Thank you for supporting Run Blog Run. My dear brother Brian co-founded it with me in 2007. He tried to do it in 2006, but I was a little stubborn. So we've been doing it since then. We have the running network sites as well that Chuck Bartlett manages for us. And we have a ton of video that was produced by our partner, the Shoe Addicts, over the years, and really enjoy those. That's from Mike Deering and my dear son Adam and AJ Felice. And we have worked with about 20 writers all over the world, including the one and only Jeff Benjamin, who makes each day a delight. And then Dave Monty and his wife Jane at Race Results Weekly, and Stuart Weir in the UK, Deji Ugayimbu down at Georgia State, Justin Legat over in I-10, and we've got Paul Merca in lovely Seattle. We've got a whole group who support Run Blog Run and the Running Network, and thank you for you, our readers, because without you, we wouldn't be doing it. Okay, peace out. I'll be chatting to you. Yes, this is a long one. Thanks, Jeff.